Good evening, everyone. Today is February 6, 2025. This is the regular session of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas Board of Commissioners meeting. Welcome. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioner staff and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone. Also as well, they're on site. All participants joining by phone should please mute your phones at this time when not speaking. This is done to avoid any background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so that the public that is observing knows exactly who is speaking. It's also critical, given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General's office. Also, it's necessary so our clerk can record your comments for record. If public comments are allowed on the agenda, please make sure that those comments are limited to the topic for that item of discussion. Per the commission rules of decorum in this chamber, disorderly conduct is strictly prohibited. If you are engaged in such actions, you will be asked to leave, and we will maintain order and decorum as required in our policies. I will now call this meeting to order. Clerk, roll call, please.
Roll call. Hill.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Lopez.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Bynum. Here. Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Ramirez. We have an absence memo. Garner.
Here,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Sorry about that. Thank you. The invocation is going to be given tonight by Dr. Hill, Commissioner Hill, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll ask everybody, please, to stand at this time.
Would you bow your heads, please? Father, we just thank you for this another opportunity to gather together. We pray that you would lead us, you would guide us, that our hearts would be open to hear your voice and to be led by your Holy Spirit. We put ourselves out here on tonight to say, Lord, we need you. We need your help. And we thank you in advance that you have heard our prayer and that you are answering our prayer. I pray for every commissioner, every constituent, and all those who want to do business here in Wyandotte County. I pray that we are led to work together in peace and in harmony for the betterment of every individual in our community and every family. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Hill, for the prayer. Clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
There are no revisions.
Okay. That takes us to the mayor's agenda. Clerk, I believe there's several proclamations. Can you read those?
Our first proclamation. Whereas each year, February is designated Black History Month, a time for honoring and exploring the culture and history of African Americans and recognizing that our society's rich diversity is one of our greatest strengths. And whereas the origins of Black History Month date back to 1915, when Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded the organization known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas Black History Month began as Negro History Week in February 1926 in the United States. And whereas in the 1960s, the week expanded into Black History Month as it coincides with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass of February 15 and Abraham Lincoln of February 12. And whereas as we celebrate the history of Black Wyandotte Countyans, brilliant African American artists, talented musicians, and successful business and industry leaders, may we also recognize the barriers that they have overcome. And whereas observing Black History Month provides opportunities to gain a deeper understanding of African American history and acknowledge the centuries of struggle for equality, freedom, And whereas Black History Month also celebrates the achievements and contributions that African Americans have made in shaping our country's communities. And whereas we must not forget the men and women who work tirelessly for freedom, civil rights, and equality for all people, and whose deeds help to broaden and enrich American culture. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim February 2025 as Black History Month in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, and urge all citizens to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance.
Thank you, Clerk. I just acknowledge the unimaginable struggles, the faithful resilience, the dedication and determination and positive contribution of African Americans, not just here in Wyandotte County, but worldwide, and those contributions. So many, too many to be counted when you talk about the positive contributions. And it is my honor to celebrate one last time with the unified government as mayor, being the first African-American mayor duly elected to this unified government. It is my honor and pleasure to issue that proclamation. We will be recognizing several well-known African-American advocacy groups that have a long legacy of promoting justice, equality, fairness, and hope. And those were the Kansas City, Kansas NAACP, as well as the Bonner Springs NAACP, and the Greater Kansas City Urban League. We will be recognizing them at our next meeting. So again, let's take pause during this time, throughout the month, and throughout the year, for that matter. And let's continue to champion the resilience and the work of African Americans here in the United States that have sacrificed so much. So thank you, Clerk.
Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim Saturday and Sunday, February 8th and 9th, 2025, as Metropolitan Baptist Church Weekend in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Thank you, Clerk. Thank you for those proclamations. That takes us to the regular consent agenda. Do any members of the commission or the county administrator, I'm sorry. Sorry. We are honored to have Mr. Randy Colstrom with us today. He's my Leadership 2000 partner. If he can come to the podium, he's going to give a presentation and update to the unified government and the community on our collaboration and our longstanding commitment to supporting the work of Wyandotte Behavioral Health. So welcome, Mr. Colstrom.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to update you on the county's Community Mental Health Center. Our roots go back to 1953 when we were incorporated as the Wyandotte County Child Guidance Clinic. And in 1963, John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy's last act as president, was to sign the Community Mental Health Center Act, which created community mental health centers across the country in all 50 states. And in the 1960s, mid-1960s, Wyandotte County designated Wyandotte Mental Health Center, as we were called at the time, to be the county's designated community mental health center, which means we are the behavioral health safety net provider in Wyandotte County. We serve everyone regardless of ability to pay, and we are here as a servant to the county. If we could go on to the next slide. Oh, I do it. I act like a rookie. Thank you very much. We actually exist in Kansas statute. KSA 19-4001 established the community mental health centers in Kansas. And there's also a mental health tax levy in that statute, which I will refer to in a short bit here as well. For those of you not familiar with our network of organizations, we are a family of organizations. Wyandotte Behavioral Health Network is the parent company. Then we have 4 service organizations. Wyandotte Center, which is the behavioral health organization serving adults. PACES is the Children's Community Mental Health Center. RSI is our 24/7 Crisis Stabilization Center. Kim Wilson Housing is our housing division, which helps provide housing connections for people who are houseless and provides intensive supported housing services as well. Each year, we serve roughly 8,000 residents of Wyandotte County in all of the organizations. And in the Kansas statute that I referenced just a second ago, I just wanted to share with you, before I share this, I just want to be clear, I'm not asking for money tonight. Although I reserve the right to return at some time in the future to ask for more money, but I do want you to just appreciate the tax levy that we have in Wyandotte County compared to some of our other larger urban areas in the state. As you can see, Johnson County has $42 per capita. Topeka or Shawnee County has about $12.50. Wichita, Sedgwick County has about $10.50. Our per capita mental health tax levy in 2024 was $5.38, which ranks 85 out of 105 counties in the state. Just informational. I'm going to speak tonight a little bit broader than just what we typically do, because all of our mental health services cover outpatient services, mental health, counseling, therapy, psychiatry, intensive services in the community. But we have some very unique programs in partnership with county organizations and to better serve the community. One of those is our longstanding initiative with the justice system, the police department, the sheriff's department, including the jail and the courts. Through our work over the last 12, 13 years, we have partnered with the court to create a behavioral health court. We have 3 co-responders, 2 co-responders embedded into the KCK Police Department, 1 co-responder embedded into the Sheriff's Department. Over 90% of the law enforcement officers in Wyandotte County have received CIT training, which is specialized training on recognizing and how to address in a more healthy way those that are experiencing a psychiatric crisis. And then we have jail and court liaisons to help those individuals that are in jail needing mental health services to get connected to services when they are released from the jail. We also have specific MOUs, including for 1 co-responder with the police department. We pay for the 2nd co-responder through a grant that we have. And then we have the sheriff co-responder, the jail liaison, and then we have mental health staff embedded into both the adult and juvenile community corrections. In 2024, our co-responders responded with a CIT officer on 693 mental health calls to 911, which diverted 119 individuals in psychiatric crisis from being booked into jail. It reduced booking into jail of individuals with severe mental illness by over 30% since 2015. And in 2024, we saved 440 bed days in local jail. In all told, all of our justice-involved mental health programs saved the county $180,000 in 2024. We started providing emergency shelter to children in police protective custody prior to their being placed in foster care maybe 15 years ago. But it was a very small shelter. And there were still children being picked up, placed in police protective custody, and loaded into the back of a sheriff's car and driven as far away as Wichita and Junction City because there was no place in Wyandotte County to keep these children safe and provide housing for them until they were placed into foster care. So we built Robert's Place. 2025 is our 10th anniversary. In 2024, we provided shelter to 139 children, which otherwise would have been taken somewhere into the middle of Kansas, costing the county money. and also time for sheriff deputies to drive to and from picking these kids up. Through our MOUs with the corrections, juvenile corrections, last year we provided mental health services to over 80 juvenile offenders. And I don't have the data tonight, but what I've learned this afternoon is that compared to other states in Kansas, Wyandotte County is showing marked improvement and leading the state in reducing recidivism and reducing the number of children from Wyandotte County who are placed out of a home due to juvenile offending behaviors. Our housing division, each month, we, through 5 HUD grants that we manage, provide rental assistance for 112 individuals in our intensive supported housing program. So they get not only rental assistance, but intensive supported housing services on site to help them maintain their housing. Last year, we housed 46 individuals that were houseless on the streets in Wyandotte County and helped them access housing. And then in the fall of 2023, we started a transitional program for individuals exiting the state psychiatric hospital at Osawatomie who had no address to be discharged to. In other words, they would have been discharged into homelessness in Wyandotte County. We started a very small program, and last year we served 7 individuals and have helped those individuals move into permanent supported housing with a full array of wraparound services. So in all told, we keep about 150 people housed that otherwise would be on the streets homeless in Wyandotte County. RSI, our Crisis Stabilization Center, we served almost 1,800 individuals in 2024. 205 of those were transported by Wyandotte County law enforcement. Again, this is a diversion to booking into jail or into a state psychiatric hospital. It also saves deputies and officers time because they are in and out of RSI in 5 minutes, as opposed to driving them to the emergency room at KU or Providence Medical Center, where they might have to stay with that individual for 2-3 hours. In May of last year, we became the 988 call center for Wyandotte County. If you're not familiar with 988, 988 is the National Suicide and Mental Health Crisis Line. I want to emphasize mental health crisis line because it is not just for people who are suicidal. But from May 7th through December 31st, we took over 4,415 calls from people in Wyandotte County. We have more calls to the 988 call center for people in crisis from Wyandotte County than Wichita, Sedgwick County, which has triple the population of Wyandotte County. Our commitment is to serve this community, work with community partners and stakeholders. Where we see gaps, we try to fill those gaps. Not doing it alone, because almost everything we do, almost everything I talked about here this evening, we do in partnership with other community stakeholders, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's schools, whether it's community corrections, et cetera. But that's what a community mental health center does. We are different from other mental health providers because we serve the community. And for that, I will close my comments and we'll stand for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Question from Commissioner Davis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Callison, for presenting. And thank you for all the work that you all do. I know you all have scattered sites, but I know you have some in my district, and
Yes.
we've talked and I visited and all that good stuff. So big fan of the work that you all do. I have a question on the cost of providing housing to folks. Number one, do you all charge, right, rent or anything? And then number two, if you don't charge, do you have an estimated cost and just how much per person it takes to house folks?
Yeah, so we have 5 HUD grants that provide subsidies for individuals. Those grants require a 30% of someone's income that they pay towards that. That money comes back into us, and then that money goes back into the services that they receive. But if they have no income, 30% of nothing equals nothing, I think. Pretty sure about that. As far as housing someone, you know, the average or the federal fair market rate for a one-bedroom apartment in downtown KCK right now is $1,000 a month. We have a shortage of affordable housing for individuals who need these kinds of assistance and services. And landlords, we struggle to find landlords that will continue to grow. So, but it does cost money to do that, and it also saves money in terms of jail and emergency room visits, et cetera.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bynum.
Mayor, thank you. And Randy, I just wanted to say thank you for, number one, for bringing that presentation, for everything you and all of your staff do in the community. I think it really takes a special person to work in this line of employment, and people who have to really care about the well-being of other people. And then, not only that, but the efforts that you make to be a good partner to the unified government and do things that do reduce costs for us. We've known for a long time, I don't know the current statistics, the cost of a day in jail versus the cost of a day of mental health treatment, and you probably can tell us that.
Yeah, right. The last calculation we had, and this actually goes back to when Sheriff Ash was still in office, but it was $92 a day. If that's changed, I don't have that data. So the estimates that I shared of $180,000 savings was based on that.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you
Thank you.
for being here tonight and for everything that you all do.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we have incredible people that have incredible heart that do this work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I had a quick question. Are there any other collaborations or relationships you have with any other non-for-profits or hospitals in Kansas City, Kansas, or Wyandotte County?
Yeah, we have MOUs with a lot of community partners. One is we have MOU with Vibrant Health. Holistic integration healthcare is also one of our goals as a community certified community behavioral health clinic. Last year, we helped connect 472 of our patients to primary care, and in turn, Vibrant referred 206 for mental health services. We also have MOUs with KU, Strawberry Hill. We work with them every day, along with KU, emergency department, the school districts, all 4 school districts. We have MOUs, and in KCK School District and in Bonner Springs School District, we have staff that are mental health staff that are embedded into the schools, specifically working with, I think, 13, 14 schools in the USD 500. We also collaborate with Crosslines, Mark Carmel, and ones I'm not thinking of at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you, Randy. I think that was important to know that this group, your organization doesn't operate in a silo, because relationships are key, and it's good to know, and it's good for the public to know that you have positive working relationships throughout all of Kansas City, Kansas, and parts of Wyandotte County. And so thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the services you provide to the people of Wyandotte County.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for granting me a few minutes to share with you.
Thank you. Clerk, was there another proclamation?
We've already read that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to our regular consent agenda. Do any members of the commission, county administrator wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. Okay, I have a motion. I will accept that motion for
Dave,
approval.
second.
There's a second. I'll accept that motion as well. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to the standing committee's agenda. Item number 9.1, resolution 2025 Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Program. This item was heard by the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee chaired by Commissioner Davis on Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and fast-tracked to tonight's meeting. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Yes, colleagues, the reason why this is fast-tracked is because in order for us to apply for this grant, the deadline is tomorrow. And so staff is ready to go. They're working very, very hard. We just need to go ahead and ratify it. It's a 50-50 match. The money is already in the budget. Some of it has already been spent. No additional dollars. With that, I'll move to approve.
Bynum, second.
Thank you. I'll accept those motions. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Hill,
Aye.
Kane. Aye. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have two items on the administrator's agenda. Item number 10.1 is a presentation on a consent decree overview. This is from our Public Works Department regarding the terms and conditions of the Department of Justice Environmental Protection Agency's consent decree. I'll turn it over to our administrator, Mr. David Johnson, for opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been under this consent decree with the EPA for a number of years. We've had this presented to various commissions during the budget presentations, and we just felt it was important to have a general overview to remind us what the consent decree is. It's been noted by many folks over the years of what it isn't. And I think it's important to be reminded what it is. We've had various reminders when we've had agenda items for approval before you, but I think it's very good to have occasionally a good overview of what it is. Jeff Miles is our director of the newly named Environmental Services Department. And so, Jeff, please present the overview.
Thank you. And again, thank you for this opportunity. Again, my name's Jeff Miles. I'm the Director of Environmental Services. I have Trenton Fogelsong right here to my right. He's our Senior Engineer and over Innovation, along with Waldo Margam, Project Manager for Birds and Mac. So I wanted to go back, as David mentioned, I want to go back in a little bit of history. I've been Director for now 2 years, and one of my first really goals was to fully understand this consent decree. It is very detailed and a lot of topics involved in it, long-term, 25-year commitment. So I want to go back in a little bit of history, and I'll be able to kind of paint the picture of how we ended up here today. So one of my favorite quotes I think fits in this is that those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Winston Churchill. So with that, since becoming, again, Director, I completely, a little closer, there you go. Is that better? Since becoming Director, I completely dove into the consent decree. I wanted to know what caused this extreme measure and how to prevent it repeating in the future. I spent a ton of time researching at the Wyandotte County Museum to understand the history, along with a few of the stakeholders that happen to still be here, two of them sitting to my right. Actually. And one of the things that jumped out to me when I was doing all this research of how many different stakeholders that we have here today that weren't involved during the negotiations, the initial negotiations, the partial and the permanent consent decree. And I believe, if my numbers correctly, we only have 4 elected officials that was here during that time. We have a different, obviously, mayor, different county administrator, different chief of legal, CFO, budget. There's a lot of different people. So when I was going through this, I met with the director, or the retired director of the city of Kansas City, Missouri. And I kind of told him this pain point. He said he ran through the same thing at the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and he would recommend a bi-monthly update meeting. So that's what we started at the end of last year, which we had all stakeholders, HR, budget, procurement, everybody that we felt ultimately impacted meeting this obligation. And it was a 2-hour question and answer presentation that just went through that history that we're going to try to summarize tonight and just give a good back view of it. So again, who we are, as David mentioned, we are recently rebranded, but I like to go back in history. In August 1st, 1961, the Board of Commissioners passed an ordinance to form Water Pollution Control Division and collect rates for wastewater processing. Here recently, as you know, we rebranded for multiple different reasons to a brand and a name that ultimately represents the service that we supply to the community, and that's environmental services. We're a utility responsible for both wastewater, stormwater, and flood management. So core responsibilities, I like to keep it really simple versus getting way down in the weeds, but we receive, we transport, we treat up to 9 billion gallons of wastewater a year at 5 treatment plants, 78 wastewater pump stations, 40,000 manholes, and through 6 million feet of underground pipe. Now, 1 gallon of wastewater, I do this when we do a lot of public outreach. I talk about a gallon of wastewater and what does it cost our community. So when you send that 1 gallon of wastewater from your home, and you're not connected to septic or anything, you're sending it through our system, it might travel miles before it reaches a treatment plant. So it's traveling through pipe, manholes, pump stations to ultimately get to a treatment plant. It sits idle there, not idle, but it's the treatment plant's doing its magic for 2 days before it's delivered back into the river. And when it's delivered back into that river, it's cleaner than what's in the river already. So we do all that from that 1 gallon as it leaves your home through our entire system to deliver it back into the river for 1 penny a gallon is where currently our rates are at. I say that a lot in our public education just to really explain the process and the value that we're supplying to the community. The other thing that I like to talk about on that topic is our goal, and part of this consent decree, was to prevent any of that wastewater, anywhere from that home all the way to that river, from leaking out of pipes, manholes, pump stations, anywhere that can go into the ground, as well as the other job is to keep any water from entering that. So if you just did some quick math, I did while I was sitting there, we do 9 million gallons a year of wastewater through our 5 treatment plants. And if you just calculate that up at that penny, that's $108 million. Well, we all know we don't bring in that type of revenue. That's because there's other ways water get into our system, and then that kind of defines a little part of that consent decree when we talked about combined sewers. We get a lot of stormwater that we're cleaning unnecessarily. As the terms be, and I'll show you here a couple photos of how that outflows into our rivers. All right, a combined sewer overflow. This is one of the biggest things that I've noticed sitting in commission meetings, public outreach opportunities. The consent decree focuses on CSOs, and I want to really stress it's so much more to that. Obviously, these bring a lot of attention because this is one of the core things that we got to correct through the consent decree. But if you show to the left, to the right, there's a separated system, and ideally, a younger community, that's exactly what it looks like, where they two don't mix with each other. Where on the right, you'll see a combined system. That's what we're facing today. And we're going to talk about the numbers that we still have left and what is our approach to address those. But you'll hear through this presentation, and you might hear in other presentations, outflows. So if you look right there where it says sewer and stormwater outflow, that's where it's flowing down. Sometimes during high rain events, that might be mixed, delivering it right to the river. That's one of the things that we want to ultimately prevent. So I summarize the long-term outcome of the consent decree is to improve water quality, reduce overflows, and a healthier environment for the community today and well into the future. So the Clean Water Act, I'm going to go through a timeline pretty quickly, but it tells a story that I feel is very important for us to all understand how we got here today and how we're dealing with it. But in 1948, the federal government passed the Federal Water Pollution Control Act. And I state that too, not only 1948, but that's where we got our name, Water Pollution Control. It tells you how outdated that was. Fast forward to 1972, and the United States Congress passed the Federal Water Pollution Control Act. And I thought in my research at the museum, everybody remembers the Kansan newspaper that we had here in our community, right? So I want to read this first paragraph. Kansas City, Kansas, this was from 1972. Kansas City, Kansas was subject of the national news stories in June 1972, but it was nothing to make city officials happy. The headline in the Wall Street Journal of June 5th that year read, "All up to date in Kansas City, Kansas, except the sewage plant." After 15 years of talk, the U.S. agency asked the Justice Unit to sue Water Pollution Control. That was the first time that we were sued by the federal government back at that time. Now, the cool thing about that story is once we built the Call Point treatment plant, they dropped that lawsuit because we met that requirement at that point. But it's kind of showing a history of how we got here today. Now, fast forward to 1996, this is where this consent decree, one of the steps that really started. In 1996, through our Call Point treatment plant permit, we were required to submit and develop a CSO long-term control plan, and it was submitted in November 2000. So we were asked in 1996. It took us 4 years to come up with a very detailed plan. From 2000 to 2006, we reduced outfalls that I showed you in that previous photo, from 66 to 39 on our own before there was any consent decree or anything. Unfortunately, in 2007, the following year after celebrating that success, we were notified that the long-term control plan was inadequate for the pace that they wanted us to perform at. That's where this all started. So from 2007 to 2009, this is where, once that was inadequate, from 2000 to 2009, the EPA came in over 2 years and performed a compliance inspection on our entire program, much more than just CSOs, and significant violations of the Clean Water Act were found. Now, fast forward to 2013. Between that time, to 2013, we worked and agreed to a partial consent decree. Agreed was reached and addressed many of the issues, but was not final. It was not a final consent decree. It was just a partial, and I'll tell the rest of that story. That bought us some time to continue to try to work on those outflows and other steps all the way to 2016 when we submitted our first IOCP. That stands for Integrated Overflow Control Plan. And we aimed at a 10-year plan. When we went to negotiate with the federal government with that 10-year plan, it did not meet the expectations that they wanted. So we had to go back to the drawing board, the team did, and find obviously a plan that we felt the community could afford long-term. In 2018, we submitted a supplement IOCP 25-year plan. And then in March 23rd, 2020, thankfully the APA approved our final ISOP, which ultimately joined the partial consent decree, which established our full consent decree for 25 years. And we went back preparing for this on April 30th, 2020. In this room, it was approved through our commission. I think for a few of you guys were here at that point. Now, one of the things that I did learn by doing this research that we need to be better at is communicating this more often, and that's what David's assisting with us tonight. We want to give more updates, more status of where we're at, challenges that we're reaching, so on and so forth. So here's just a couple examples. These are out of cycle for whatever reason when I submitted it, but this is how serious during those negotiations it got. This was from 2018, and basically we was kind of at a stalemate at that. We weren't getting what we wanted, where it was affordable. The EPA was not getting what they wanted at that point. And I want you to think about that time. What happened right after 2018? COVID, right? Beginning of 2019. We do feel because of that, that helped us in this opportunity to come to a conclusion at that point. Here's another one. This is back from 2013 when we did the partial agreement. And this was just for immediate release justice news at that time. All right, so here's the partial consent decree. A few things that jumped out of this we pulled some parts out of it so it's better to understand. So in 2013, it just basically said the partial consent decree will not fully resolve all the United States claims against the unified government. And as you see down at the bottom, after approval of the IOCP and associated schedules by the EPA, the unified government agrees without anything further to modify this consent decree to incorporate the approved IOCP and the partial consent decree to ultimately finalize it when we get to that point. So now we're to the finalization of the consent decree, this 2020. And when I say that's much more than just CSO separation, I like to really touch on a lot of these topics because it made us completely raise our game in all fronts. The photos here, I mean, the top right one I think fits for the timeline right now. That shows a camera, and just as a reminder, all those 6 million feet of pipe that we have are underground, kind of out of sight, out of mind. There was at that time, there was no way to really see the condition of them or run an asset management program that compared a pipe from year to year. That particular photo up in the corner is grease in that line. So part of the consent decree, obviously that's a topic in our community right now. That's one of the things that come out of the consent decree is to have a fog program, an established fog program to prevent those types of situations. So now we're part of the consent decree. We have to go out and proactively televise, jet so many lines, and it really made us as an organization be much more professional to where we're trying to get in front of the problem versus chasing the problem. Because you got to remember, if one of these pipes fail, it's more than just one resident. It's everything behind that failure. That's why it's so important. And we say that within our group a lot. We don't have an option to wait. When there's damage to one of our pipes or there's a clog, we have to go out and immediately respond. Down on the bottom, you'll see our new facility. A lot of you guys have already visited that as well. That was part of the whole program to raise the game, basically. The building that was prior to this one was built in 1945, and thankfully we're tearing it down in the next couple of weeks with the opening of this new facility. But it has full training rooms inside of there to where we can continue to drive continuous improvement with our team. No, I'm going to back up just one. One thing to remember too, and I missed this earlier, you see down in the right-hand corner, one of our team members looking at an exposed trench and we're replacing a pipe or making a repair. But this is one of the other challenges that we face that really put us in this position. We have a great historic community that we all love, but it's a very old community. A lot of the infrastructure was put in well before technology that's available today. One of our oldest pipes that we have that's still in use is 130 years old that we're addressing, that we have to monitor that. The other challenge that we have is we have a river obviously to the north and we have a river to the south. That magnifies things. We have a community that right in the peak of our community is the highest point of ours. So we have to have treatment plants on the north side. We have to have treatment plants on the south side. So obviously gravity works as a friend and runs that way. But that's what magnifies our challenges with the pump stations, 78 pump stations, just to ultimately pump wastewater up hills and up over hills and deliver them to different treatment plants. Notable requirements that came out of the consent decree that these are all, again, above and beyond just CSO separation and operational plan compliance, permit compliance. And I could talk about the permit compliance for probably 2 to 3 hours of how challenging that is to make sure every one of these treatment plants, earlier this, I guess it'd been late last year, we brought the team here to celebrate their compliance of the treatment plants and how hard that is to accomplish. That's part of it. Maintenance performance requirements. So we have KPIs that we have to meet that the team focuses in on daily. We have dashboards built throughout our building to remind them we're so much to our goals for the year. And then, of course, compliance evaluations through engineering, metering, modeling. And then the end, we talk about annual reporting. And this was just something that came out of the consent decree. This right here is 2023 annual report. And I like to carry it around. I keep it in my office because it's something to brag about of all the work that was done by the team to accomplish the goals that was set in the consent decree. One thing that we do say in these team meetings when we talk about this is that although we're doing this because technically we were forced to raise the game and perform at this level, it's something that we should be doing regardless of a consent decree. We should be performing at that level above and beyond. But it's a good reminder of all the hard work that goes in. Now, this annual report is sent to the EPA every year. We're working on 2024 right now. That will be published, I believe, in February, Waldo, February. And it will include, we started adding this meeting tonight. We'll add all of our meetings that we do, our bi-monthly meetings. Everybody that attends, to prove to the EPA that we're taking this consent decree very, very seriously, and we're doing everything we can to keep it affordable as well as meet the goals. Here's some notable capital projects, and this is just a summary. This is not everything, but it's kind of the outcomes. CSO control measures, targeted sewer separation that we touched on earlier, CSO, pump station and force main capacity improvements. That's a constantly a moving target. As we build economic growth within our community, we have to adapt with our infrastructure underground to make sure it has the capacity for that economic growth. High rate treatment at the Call Point wastewater treatment plant. And then you just go down the list of some of them. The system renewal and other capital needs. When I made this presentation, I kind of screwed that up. That was actually a check mark on its own, but because it's that important. Unfortunately, a lot of times in our industry, we don't have the ability to budget everything and anticipate every failure that we might have in our system. We can do our best by tracking the assets, tracking how big a crack is, comparing it year to year, this and that. But sometimes we have situations that just fail unknown. And then our goal is obviously to be able to replace that and make it an intelligent investment. We had one here recently that this one kind of reminded me that I wanted to talk about, is that this is the decisions that we have to make and where to invest the money at. Is that we have a line right now in our community that it broke. We had a sewer overflow. We went and addressed it. It didn't overflow in any homes or anything like that, just out of a manhole. The pipe failed. Well, we have technology now that goes down in the pipe, and we can actually put a Band-Aid on that broken part and hope that's going to be good for a number of years, as our fingers are crossed to do that. That keeps us from having to dig up the street, the curbs, the sidewalk, all the expensive infrastructure above it. We go out and put that Band-Aid on it at that point. Unfortunately, in this situation, the example I'm giving, it's done it for 3 weeks in a row. So we know all we're doing is putting a Band-Aid here, moving the Band-Aid, moving the Band-Aid. The system renewal gives us that adjustability to invest where we believe we're going to get the biggest outcome from our investment. Here's some other key compliance dates. These are just real big ones that we like to touch on. Again, it goes right along with the outcomes that was on the previous pages. You see that 2037 and 2044, those are big ones for us. And you might ask, like 2032, plant 20 capacity upgrade. You know, there's a strategy involved in that. You'll see in a slide further, maybe an investment in the new Wolcott treatment plant, and I'll touch on that. So this is the touchy one, of course. So the anticipated cost and rate impacts back when all this was being done and what was all the variables that was known at that time was shy of $1 billion of investment over 25 years. And that's where we're estimating it today. And if you think about when we worked on that in 2018 and when it was finalized in 2020, there's a lot of things that happened between 2020 and today. So part of our requirements, we're going through it right now with Shelley and her team, is every 5 years we do a new rate study. Rate studies are not inexpensive. So we try to do it every 5 years and see where we're at. Are we going to meet these goals? Are we bringing in enough income, revenue to cover these? Are we going to have to adjust? It allows us to kind of work with finance and budget to see exactly where we are. And at that point, when we did submit, this was the anticipated rate increases at that time. And I'm going to touch on this a little bit more in the next one, or I'm sorry, the next one after this. This is just some of the financial penalties that we would experience if we don't meet some of our own promises of the consent decree. I'm happy to say, not that these haven't happened. We've had a few of these, but they look at the total package and see of how long that we've been in compliance and we've met every goal. So we're given a little bit of leeway when we do have a situation, because they know we're trying to do our best that we can to stick to that consent decree. Now, this sheet here, this is a great sheet. There's a ton of information. Again, we could probably talk about this for several hours, but I think it gives, for me as a director, I look at this and it's a great roadmap to our metro area, Kansas and Missouri. Where do we compare? And if you want to look at the different columns, if you haven't had a chance, there was 2016 and then 2024 with the yellow, the square lines, where we were at, where each community was at in 2016 and where we're at in 2024, as well as the dots that you see above as the household income, medium income, and where it relates to. So there's tons of information here, but what I look at here, this does give us a general idea where we compare to other municipalities. But I like to go into the weeds a little bit further. For instance, we get compared to Olathe a lot, not only on ours, but Public Works. A lot of us get compared to Olathe. But when I'm just looking at wastewater, if you look at Kansas City, Kansas versus Olathe, very similar. We're slightly higher than where Olathe's at with their wastewater bills. But behind the scenes, that gallon of wastewater that I talked about earlier, getting from the home back to the river, that's where a lot of the cost is incurred. How much underground infrastructure do you have? How many manholes you have? How many pump stations you have? How many treatment plants? For instance, we have 5 treatment plants. Olathe has 2 treatment plants. There's a lot of variables, so we just can't compare the two for face value. I do like to compare one here to kind of give an idea. We took a different approach, our team did, and I completely agree with it. Obviously, I wasn't here at the time. I think it was a good strategy. If you look off to the right, Kansas City, Missouri, they're under a consent decree. We're the only 2 agencies on this sheet that's under a full consent decree. Kansas City, Missouri took a much different approach than we did. They took an approach of up to 15% rate increase every year versus our 5 that we started out. Now, they had different strategies and different costs too, so I'm not judging them for any reason, but you can see that's why there's such a big difference with where their rates are versus where ours is. Now, over 25 years, we might land at the same spot. We just took a different strategy to get there, different path to get there. This is just a sample, and it's not completely inaccurate, but it was accurate for the time. This is just some of the work that went in to try to long-term plan what was affordable as far as the investments to meet that consent decree. And the strategy here was, if you remember, before 2020, our rates were highs and lows, roller coasters. High one year, none the next year, high next year, back and forth. We wanted a nice steady rate increase to where it wasn't a shock to the community, why we were meeting all those obligations of the consent decree. Down to the right, you'll see this is just a small snippet of some of the projects, but it's a ton more than just these. It's just an example. You took up to the top and you'll see a pie chart there. You see it was at 926 and we estimated at that 1 billion today. Now this is the last slide before we get to any questions that you might have. This is one the top one, of course, is just, tells if we purposely did anything, especially me as a director, if I purposely manipulate any information or I don't report anything, I could be held criminally responsible for that. But the bottom one I like to read, and when we do the bi-monthly meetings, I like to read this out loud, and I'm going to do that now. But the unified government shall be responsible for ensuring that all employees, contractors, and consultants involved in performing any work pursuant to the consent decree perform such work in a manner consistent with the requirements of the consent decree. I said that in that bi-monthly meeting because, for example, like we lean on, and I'm not picking on, I'm actually complimenting HR. We lean on them a lot. We're still at a 20% vacancy rate right now. And it's hard to perform those requirements of the consent decree when you don't have enough people, which ultimately we pay more overtime to make up for that because we still got to hit these goals. So when I invited to them and they came in full force and help us with recruiting, they have a small little piece of the puzzle. If they can help us find people, they're helping us meet this consent decree. So with that said, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Morales. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes, sir. Is it, I just want to clarify, is it so do we get our water or drinking water ultimately like from the river and then you guys, it's clean, you purify it and then that's how we get our drinking water, correct?
BPU gets the water from underneath the river, well underneath the river. They installed some aquifers. Is that how you pronounce it? Aquifers, right? Aquifer, right. Yeah, they pull the water from there, which is filtered. They do their process to make it drinkable. It's delivered to your home until you use it through your faucet, your toilet, your shower, anything like that, and then it becomes wastewater when it leaves your home.
Okay, so basically you're saying there's a well, some kind of a water well under the river?
Under the river, yeah, or beside the river, I guess I would say.
Okay,
And I'm no expert at that by BPU by no means, but
Right,
I just toured their water plant about a month or two ago, so we learned a lot about that as well.
okay, so, will that well ever go dry? What I'm trying to say, ask it too.
Actually, it's a good question. A lot of people that day when we sat through, when they gave us that tour, it actually secures water. It's a very impressive investment that they did, because if you think about in the winter months when it's extremely cold, a lot of cities pull the water off the top of a river or in the middle of the river and it freezes and they have a problem, a very inconsistent water source. So when they built these aquifers under the river, it gives them a nice consistent temperature, same chemical set, everything delivered to their plant. So it was a great investment, forward thinking on their part.
What I'm trying to get at is, and I know I'm kind of maybe put you on the spot, but it's not nothing with you per se, or your department, but, there is, I've been reading up on this fly ash that comes from, the power plants that is being, filled in this, cave in my district. And to fill it, but there's water that runs through it. It goes to the river ultimately. And I've been reading that there's particulars and whatnot in this still, that there's lead, and now it's saying, I got a report about it that it's possibly cancer causing in the futures, but this is all going, and I'm not sure, I've been trying to find the right avenue. I've had the federal game warden out there a few times on different things, but also I don't know where to go with this. Maybe,
I would strongly suggest, we do leadership meetings every month, environmental services do, and we try to pick different locations through the community so we know our value. One of the locations was BPU, and I learned so much that day from their team when they gave us that tour, and I'm confident they would be able to answer those questions for you.
right, because I know that ultimately it's going there and it is getting it'll probably end up in our water supply. But at the same time, I mean, how do we, basically, it sounds like it's you're doing your part, but then this is coming in and then it's like contradicting what you're trying to fix, or not fix, but on your side, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and then this is coming in, and now it's.
I would, again, to just circle back that, like for environmental service, we have an environmental compliance person that, they're the ones that test every drop that we put, but not every drop, but we test the water that goes back into the rivers, right? And BPU has them same people. That's, again, who I would highly recommend you contact BPU, go have a meeting, or maybe they'll be able to answer the questions on that topic.
Right, I have met with that person, and just seems like, I don't know, that's why I was like, now do I need to go to a higher level, but not, I don't want to bring any heat on us, but at the same time, you're doing your part, which is great. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Right, appreciate it.
Can I make one comment, Commissioner? Trenton Fogelsong. The area you're talking about drains into the Kansas River. BPU's water supply is underneath the Missouri River up north, so none of the water you're talking about running off could possibly go to the BPU water intake from my understanding of their system. But again, I would defer to,
Right.
Jeff said you should contact BPU.
Right, no, and I get that. I was just trying to, but we also have some people still on well water, just some people. And I'm sure it's getting into there. But, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Miles, Mr. Fogelsong, Mr. Walls, if I got that right. Thank you for this update. I was just coming on board when this was coming to full head, so I appreciate this overview. That's a lot of budgets ago. But let me just ask a few simple questions. We talk about this compliance decree. And I don't know what page this is, but it's the one entitled Key Compliance Dates, and there are about 10 on that slide. And this goes through 2046. So here we are, what, 2025? Are these things the things that we will have to do each year indicated here? To comply with the consent decree? And then does that mean we're done with the consent decree? Is the consent decree something we are ever just done with, having achieved it?
That's a not a tough question, but we believe there'll be more requirements to come after we complete this. There's no reason to not expect that. But these goals that you see in our presentation, those are, that's the end goal of meeting all the little pieces of the puzzle to get to those compliance regulations.
Okay. And I'm going to give you an opportunity. I understood you to say that you're and the department are constantly working on these goals, make sure we have clean drinking water, achieve the separation of the tools, of the wastewater and stormwater. But you're saying you're currently working at a 20% manpower deficit. How many people does that really translate to that you need, and what kind of people are you looking for? This is an opportunity to get it out there, what you're looking for. If you want to talk about the type of pay, so this is your opportunity.
Thank you so much for asking that question. So we have, and I do like to tell this, and this is because of technology, and this is before me as well, but we peaked out at 184 FTE positions at one point in this utility. Today, we have an authorization to use 129 full-time employees, and out of that 129, we're about 25 to 28 positions shy right now. Who we're looking for is, we worked very closely this last year with the partners at IBEW and came up with a lot of different innovative plans that more on a basis of coming in, you can come in with no experience, we're going to get you your CDL. We're going to give you 3 years to get this certification. We're going to help you there. And once you get there, you get a carrot, basically additional pay when you get to that point. So we've taken that same program and worked with KCK Community College, and they've mirrored our needs, and they're making an apprentice program for us as well. Not only just for us, but this is anywhere that the Olathes, anybody can send people to go through that training, because there is some certifications that we require, not only on our collection side, but our operation side as well. But the biggest thing that we look for is great attitude and work ethic. And you got those two things. We got a great team. A few of them came with us tonight to support us back there at the back of the room. And they'll be more than happy to train them and help them along as well. So I'm very proud of the team and all the steps that they're taking, trying to attack that vacancy rate that we have. And a small thing is through the negotiations that we did this year, we really looked at the challenges that we had. One of them was the facility. Obviously, when we were doing interviews in a building that was in 1945, and the roof leaks and everything else, it serves its purpose. So our new facility, we're really excited to bring new team members there, to give them a tour. It's just that professional level. The other thing is we had to look at ourselves as far as the change of positions and the change of titles. For instance, we went to high schools and we brainstormed with a lot of the counselors and the teachers on how to make our positions more attractive. When you're that 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, you want to go be maybe a firefighter or a police officer, and our positions were called sewer maintenance workers. not that attractive, right? To go be a sewer maintenance worker. So we completely worked with HR and they were very helpful with us changing our names to more environmentally friendly titles. And that's our end goal. That's what we're here every day, is to protect the environment. It's just everything that we do in between there.
Does someone who's interested in becoming one of your team members in this area have to complete a full curriculum at the college or just this particular program?
Either. It's either or. If somebody comes in with a little bit of experience, maybe that wouldn't be necessary to send them through that program. But this is an option for them, for like somebody freshly out of high school and really doesn't know. So we renamed our entry level positions. We increased the starting pay and named those positions apprentice. So they could come in. It's no pressure that I don't know too much about it. And they could go through the training at the school, and or if it's a more seasoned person, maybe a construction person or something, that's not necessary to go through that. We'll train them in-house and get them prepared for that certification.
Well, thank you so much. I know the goal will continue to be providing safe, clean water for the citizens of Wyandotte County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bynum.
Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I really can't stress enough how important I think it is that we just try to educate our community over and over and over and over again about, number one, this consent decree. I don't think people understand it, and I don't blame them.
Right.
It's not part of your daily life. But I did want to say, if you're driving and you're trying to get downtown and you encounter some construction, I believe that's part of one of the many projects that's helping us create compliance with this
Yep.
consent decree. And I do take that question a lot, you
Yeah.
know, especially over these last few months. And I myself have learned, oh, don't go that way, go around. But it's important for people to understand, you know, we don't have those roads closed just for fun. And just wanted to thank and commend your team members that have joined you here tonight to just support what you're trying to bring to us. Thank you all.
And I appreciate that. And I thank you for last night. And I know a lot of the commissioners is here. Public outreach is another part of the consent decree that they encouraged to do. I think I did personally 14 community outreaches classes last year, and I'm going to outdo my record this year is my goal. We did one last night. Thank you, Commissioner. So take that opportunity. If you're getting questioned about stormwater bills or calculations or wastewater or anything, please have us. We'll be more than happy to come out and answer questions. And I think once you tell that whole picture, the whole story, kind of like partly what we did tonight. I know the group last night was completely understanding, and we actually found a couple mistakes that we're addressing as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I'll be brief. Mr. Miles and Trent and your whole team, thank you all. This is not easy work, and it's very difficult, I imagine, as professionals to be like, we have this 25-year grand plan, and I don't know where I will be or what I will be doing at the end of it. And then there might be another 10 years added on to it. But thank you for the hard work that you all are doing as an organization. One of the things that I think we, and even for myself, I can get better at educating myself on, are the credits for stormwater. And so I'd heard about it. I know it's on the website, read through it. It's pretty extensive. But if you may give just a brief synopsis of what the stormwater credits are and just what folks that are listening should be thinking about and how they can access that information.
I'll take my best stab at it. Sarah and Cassandra was with us last night. They do a fantastic job, so they focus in on that. So I'll do my best to repeat some of the things I learned last night as well. I even brought my BPU bill to that meeting, and I wanted to double check my stormwater bill as well. But the first thing is to check the accuracy. Go to the online mechanism. You'll be able to look up your property and see exactly what you're being charged as far as square footage. If you feel that there's a discrepancy there, there is an appeal process that you fill out, you send in, and they evaluate that thing. Now, as far as credits, there's many, and I don't even want to speak that I know all this information from listening last night, but there's many options that if you've proven that that wastewater is not leaving your property, if you're making steps to prevent that from happening, capturing it, there's many different mechanisms to do that. Or maybe it could give them ideas to do that. Please look at that website. And again, if it's a neighborhood, if it's anybody, the best way to do it is like Commissioner Bynum did last night. They bring it out, we pull it up on a screen, we go through properties with them, and we give them a bunch of suggestions on how to save them some money. As well as we touch on, last night it was all septic systems. But if you've seen the, go back to wastewater for a second, I think a big step, you've seen the video, hopefully a lot of you guys seen the video that we made last week with Nicole and Yolanda with our team on how to, if you save water, it saves you wastewater bills throughout the year. That's a big thing that I've seen at these community outreaches. I show by raise of hands, I said, how many people understand how your wastewater bill is calculated? And 99.9% of the time, nobody raises their hand. I'm like, okay, good. We're going to save you some money today. Let's learn. So that's another option to save them money on the wastewater as well as stormwater.
Awesome. And again, if there are other events or other things, you all are very active on social media. Congratulations on the rebranding. But I think it's super important for us to emphasize the whole story, right? We have to make these investments. If not, I don't want to pay $1,000 or $5,000 to the federal government for not doing that. But there are also options to save money. And if we can do a better job of telling that story and educating our community, we can definitely make things a little bit easier for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez.
Yes, sir. I was meant to ask you earlier, I think I seen, what about fluoride? Was that something that was under the new administration who's taking fluoride out of?
That's in the drinking water side of it. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And then real quick too, I wanted to, remember when I came to you about, had an idea, was working on something for fleet as far as recruiting and using the, I'm gonna get to you here in a minute. I mean, as far as, I know fleet's way over here, but what I'm saying is using the sheriff's department platform on their recruiting out of high school, and then broadening that to all the high schools, to every department where that would come to your department. And I just kind of lost track of that. I've been busy on other things. It just but I definitely want to maybe talk about that more and what we can do. And I know that's going to involve HR, I'd imagine our administration and whatnot, but yeah, I definitely want to get back on that. And I think it could really be a big help too.
Yeah, there's a, if I may suggest, there's a professional, they're all of them in HR is wonderful, but there's one that focuses on recruiting that helps a lot is Gina Nick. She's a great asset. She sets up a lot of our career days at all the high schools and has good relationships with the high schools. And I know she focuses on that. That'd be a good contact for you.
Yep, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Morales, and your team. Great work. Thank you for your presentation. It's very informative.
Thank you for this opportunity.
That takes us to the next item. It's item 10.2. It's a memorandum of understanding with LIUNA, Luna. It is the last item on the administrator's agenda. It's a memorandum of understanding between the Unified Government and Labor's International Union of North America. I ask our Administrator Johnston for remarks.
Where is it? Every now and then we have to have union agreements be ratified by you folks. LIUNA is one of our bargaining units. We would ask that Mr. Dank please come up and give an overview and then have it be review and discussion by you folks.
Sure. I don't know that there's much discussion. This is a 3-year renewal. It covers years 2024 to 2026. It falls within the economic authority that you all gave us, which is 3, 3, and 3. With that, I'd be happy to field any questions. This contract covers parks, fleets, streets, and transit.
All right, there's a motion and a second. I'll accept that. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Kane.
I can't vote for it. I work for the union.
Thank you. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the regular portion of tonight's commission meeting. We're going to transition as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. And to do that, I need a motion to adjourn as the Unified Board of Commissioners. And that will take us to the Land Bank Board of Trustees.
Davis, so moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Do any members of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the land bank consent agenda?
Davis moved to approve.
Townsend second.
Okay, I'll accept those motions. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There is no further business for tonight. Commission meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Davis, so moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Kane. Lopez.
Aye.
Stites. Davis.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Go Chiefs.